you guys, it's Cece. Welcome back to another video. Today we're playing some Raid Shadow Legends, and the topic for today is going to be building your first level 60. Making your first level 60 can feel a little bit daunting as you're trying to get through campaign and get all the resources, but I do have one way I can make this easier for you. If you are a new player looking to play Raid Shadow Legends, or say you want to start an alt account or anything like that, if you actually use my link down below or scan that QR code on the screen, my exclusive link will actually get you a legendary for free on day one. That's right, you can immediately start the game with a legendary named Elenaril. And at level 25, I'll even send you Uugo, who is an epic support who is actually really good and will carry you far throughout this game. There are so many things to consider when it comes to actually building your first level 60, and it's one of the first things that you're gonna want to do in the game. Now, the first thing I'm gonna say, and probably the most important, is the one that you should level 60 is going to be your campaign farmer. This will vary account by account, and it's tough for anyone to tell you like this is the specific unit that you should build because your account may differ from somebody else's. But as long as it is your campaign farmer, that is the one I would highly suggest to make your first level 60. Ideally, you are going to want your campaign farmer to be able to comfortably farm 12-3 for you. Now, 12-6 is also an option, and it is the one that's going to give you the most EXP for the energy you're using. But I do suggest 12-3 because you also get the benefit of getting silver. Since you get shields from there, you are able to sell those. So personally, that is the place that I suggest farming because you get a good amount of EXP, you get a good amount of silver, and it's easier to just train your champs there. Now, one thing to note though is that you don't want to train on Nightmare mode. Just ignore Nightmare. You don't need it. It's not going to be worth it. Ideally, Brutal is the stage that you're going to want to try to train on. So Brutal 12-3. That's kind of the end goal. That is where you're going to want to level up any fodder. So this is why you want a campaign farmer that is going to be built to be able to do that, because this first level 60 is going to make your future level 60s just that much easier to actually build. Because let's be honest, it's going to take you time. It's going to take resources. You have to build up fodder to do it. So that is why I always suggest like campaign farmer first, so that you will comfortably be able to like farm that stage over and over. There's also the question of when should I actually build my first level 60, and it's gonna go along with your account. When you're a new player starting out, you're making your way through things, you're learning the game, you're joining a clan, you're doing your arena, you're kind of just trying to make your way through your campaign mode, do some dungeons. Once you are kind of in the game and settled a bit, it's already a good idea to start being able to train something. So I've given you a good start with Elenaril. It should be really easy for you guys to actually get through your campaign mode. Hopefully you're able to at least do hard. I did make a video on like tips and tricks, and in there I did include talking about like campaign farmer, how to gear him up, things like that. So be sure that you check that video out, as that is going to help you. If possible, I also suggest trying to actually build your level 60 and doing things when it goes along with things happening in the game. So whether there's like a champion training event going on, or if it's clan versus clan, anything that you can kind of take advantage of. If you're going to be building a level 60 anyway, you may as well coincide it with something going on in the game. So it's always a good idea to see what is going to be upcoming, what's coming soon, whether it's an event, a tournament, or a clan versus clan. Take a look at that before you actually go ahead and start like building things up. As I had mentioned earlier, it is going to be account dependent on who you're actually going to have as your first level 60, as long as it's your campaign farmer. So for example, if you were somebody who started your account and you didn't really take advantage of like new player codes or anything like that, and you only have a starter, so say you picked Kyle or Elaine or Athel, any of those ones, say you picked one of them and that is the champion you've really been training, then ideally your campaign farmer is probably going to be your starter, like a Kyle. That's the one that you will invest into. If you were somebody who took advantage of a new player code like Sun Wukong and got yourself that legendary champ, he is the one that I would actually suggest over your starter. The reason for that is that Sun Wukong is actually a really good legendary champion, and you will be able to use him in other places apart from just campaign farming. He's not a champion that's eventually going to fall off. He is actually really strong for things like arena. You can use him in certain dungeons. So personally, he is the one that I would suggest over a starter if that is a champion that you have on your account. And I know an argument can be made to say, well, it's easier for me to actually skill up Kyle with books, which is true. He's a rare. He is going to be easier to skill up than Sun Wukong. But the benefit is that Sun Wukong doesn't actually really need the skill ups to be able to do things like farm your campaign. So even though it may seem like, oh, he's harder to build and this and that, he's still the one that I'm going to suggest because he's not going to fall off and you'll be able to use him in multiple places. If we are going to look at my account, for example, so I did some shard pulls kind of early on. I got fairly lucky and I have an array of champions I actually do need to build. And kind of thinking about like who should be my first level 60. This is why I say it's account dependent, because it is going to vary completely from you guys. It's actually not my starter. It would be Sun Wukong, but it's not Sun Wukong because I was fortunate enough to get Bellower. So Bellower is an amazing campaign farmer. For sure, for me, he's going to be my first level 60 because he is the champion I have that will be able to actually farm this the fastest. So for my account, it does make the most sense to actually level 60 Bellower, but as you can see, it might be different from your account. I want to hear from you though. Who is the first level 60 that you decided to make? Which champion did you use? Comment down below and let me know. Let's talk about the process of actually making a level 60 now. So I've talked about who that you ideally want to make as your first level 60. And again, it's going to seem a little daunting, and it's supposed to. It's your first level 60. It is going to take time. It's going to take effort to actually get here. But as I said, it's going to be so satisfying because once you build that first level 60, it does just get easier and easier to build the next ones. So with your process of actually building it, you're going to need to build up fodder, or if you have some chickens, you can use those. But like I said, it's going to take some time. And one thing that I do want to kind of stress and note is to be really careful on who you're actually feeding to make the level 60. So I suggest kind of leaving your rares alone if you can. There are some really good rare champions in this game that you don't accidentally want to feed. And I actually made an entirely separate video on which rares are good, so be sure that you do check that out so you're not accidentally feeding them. And read the comments as well, because people left some other great suggestions, as I only put 5 in my list, and they're like, what about this one and this one? There's a lot of really good rares, so you don't want to accidentally eat them in the process of making your level 60. But what you want to do instead is actually level up your uncommons. I know it feels like, oh, that's going to take forever, but like I said, it's going to. Of course it is. But you're going to ideally want to build these ones up. So your uncommons, use some of your mystery shards, use those, level them up, take advantage of your guardian ring, passively level those guys up as well. But the reason for that is, like I said, you don't want to accidentally feed your rares. Rares you can also use in faction wars. And even if early on you can only do like the first floor, second floor maybe, and you don't get high up, that's okay. You still want to make use of actually using your faction war keys. And that is where a lot of your rares are actually going to come into play, and just by having them in your inventory, you're able to use them even if they are not built. So ideally, save your rares and just build up your uncommons slowly but surely to make your fodder for your first level 60. Once you build that first one and it's your campaign farmer, like I said, it just gets easier and easier to build your next one. So for myself, after my Bellower, my next level 60 is probably going to be my Uugo, and that is because I'm using Uugo absolutely everywhere. Use her in arena, I use her in dungeon, I use her in clan boss. For me, I use her absolutely everywhere. Like I said, she's an amazing epic champion, and you can get her as well. So as long as you're using my code, once you're level 25, you'll get her as well, and you'll see why she is so good and definitely worth the level 60. Now, I will say Uugo is a support champ, but the reason that Uugo is so good, it has to do with the AoE defense breaks that she provides. It has to do with the buffs she provides and things like that. However, there are going to be a lot of other champions that you get in the game which are support units or things like that you might actually be able to leave at like a level 50. So for my account, for example, I have Cece, and you may think like, she is an amazing legendary in this game. Why is she not your number 1 or number 2 choice to level 60? The reason for that is because she does a great job at level 50. Right now, the places I'm using her, she's staying alive. I actually don't need to level 60 her. She's a little bit easier to build because I don't really need to focus on accuracy for her. So she right now is getting the job done at level 50. And that is something else that you'll consider as you work through your next level 60. So after your first one, when you're thinking about who's going to be your second or your third, take into mind and kind of think about it like, are they doing the job at level 50? Do I really need to level 60 them yet? So your first one ideally is going to be your attacker. And then look, maybe it's going to be another attacker. Look through else that you actually want to build up next. And maybe who is struggling to actually get the job done, but you were using a lot, and you're like, no, this is definitely worth like leveling up. That'll be your next champion. Always think about your next steps in the game. So after you have your campaign farmer, ideally you're gonna want to start focusing a little bit on your clan boss, because clan boss is somewhere you get really good resources. It's something that you eventually do want to invest into, and it's something I do suggest prioritizing really shortly after your first campaign farmer. Is going to be working on units for clan boss, and hopefully these are the same units you can use in dungeons, because after your clan boss is where I suggest looking at a dungeon like dragons, and then next would be like your ice golem, and then next from that would be like your spiders. So eventually you are going to want to diversify your team. You will start building champions that are more specialized for specific teams and things like that, but that's kind of an order that you want to follow. That is it for today's video. I hope that it does help you out and make it feel a little less daunting to actually build your first level 60. Be sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on future videos, including some of the ones I'll be putting out on Clan Boss. And again, comment down below and let me know who was your first level 60 and what did you focus on next in the game. I'll see you guys next time. Bye!
Next level.